How are you, Kate?
I'm all right. So you guys aren't doing too bad. Not too bad.
No, we're doing really well. Thank you. Thank you.
So
It's
let's frame you in the terms of a startup.
okay.
So I've wondered since the channel launched because it's hard to turn into profitability,
Yeah.
and you have put an enormous investment right out of the box into original content. So how long's your runway? How you doing?
We're actually doing quite well. On a lot of metrics, we are profitable and we are really monetizing our content in a variety of different ways, and certainly having Great American Pure Flix as a streaming platform changes the business model, and that we're able to utilize content across now streaming and linear. And while linear is in, certainly decline and there are headwinds against linear, it still represents great reach for advertisers and a great value proposition. So the advertising side has been very strong, and we are in a very good place.
I've been going around entertainment parties for years, especially speaking to broadcasters and ad-supported cable. Like, do you want to make money? Do you want to stay in business as more broadly based um, channels? Why are you leaving this audience out? Why are you leaving this money on the table? Why is Hallmark hoovering up all of this audience and this potential revenue? And of course, now you're in the game appealing to the same underserved audience. So what has been your pitch to tell people that this audience has value, they're big, and they're eager for good content that reflects their lives?
That's exactly the way we put it. That there's a tendency for entertainment, not a tendency. It's predominant, and that entertainment is geared toward the salacious, the violent, sexual content that has a tendency to be, so shocking that it's talked about a lot, or you win awards for, or it's called
Mhm.
groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And really, the content that people enjoy the most, and we happen to think it's the majority of people in the country enjoy the most, are just good storytelling with strong characters, and that you don't need to put those sensationalized pieces into content to be successful. And I think, though, because it doesn't win awards, family friendly content or faith based content, because it's not considered sexy, because it's not water cooler, quote unquote,
Mhm.
it gets overlooked and isn't the favorite thing for people to work on and produce. So we feel quite blessed that we're in a position where not a lot of competition really wants to play in our pool.
Well, when you're talking to creatives, like they're looking to build a career, how do you
Yeah,
do that? You win an award, you get a kudo, you get backslaps at cocktail parties, you get your name put here and there, you get talked about around town. That's how you build a career and get a deal and stuff. When you're talking to creatives, I mean, I always go back to the example of Seventh Heaven, which was the tent pole of the old WB network for I think 12 years. Wouldn't have won any awards, outpaced Buffy, outpaced everything else they had in terms
yeah,
of ratings. So when
right.
you're talking to creatives, how do you convince them like you can bring your talents to this space?
You bring up such a good point. You look at somebody like Martha Williamson, who created Touched by an Angel, who's as brilliant as they come. And fortunately, there are a lot of people, more than you would think, because they can't advertise it on their sleeve in Hollywood, or else they will get pushed to the back burner. But there are a lot of people who do want to create for this space, who are very talented and who want to work with us, and certainly we lean on them. But it can be a challenge, no question. It cuts both ways. We'll inevitably get the pitch that is really great 90% of the way there, and then it will be. And it will be really shocking for you guys if at this point you put in X.
It's a
And it's like,
reflex at this
yeah, you
point.
got
Yeah, it's a
90% of the
reflex.
way there. But you know what? You bring up another great point. Shows how savvy you are. You don't get your next job at Fox by working on family friendly content. And so, certainly we have to be vigilant about hiring the right people who really have a passion for it. And it's more than just money, it's a mission. And the same is true on the creative side.
I remember a couple of years ago, I was at a party that WBTV threw for their second Waltons movie on the CW. And there was Channing Dungey, I believe the head of WBTV, up there going, "We won a Christopher Award." And so I'm like, who gets up in front of reporters and brags
Yeah,
about that? I
right,
mean,
right.
they're like, "Thank you very much. We're very happy to have a Christopher Award." But it's not usually something that the head of a studio division would brag about. And I was wondering to myself, huh, what does this mean? What do you
Yeah.
think? What is going on? Is there an undercurrent? Is there a thing that's happening?
Well, I think there's a thing happening pushing back against such radical change in content that uh, that we've seen over the past few years. Even Bob Iger saying that Disney's going to change and actually produce content that people want rather than trying to produce content that's going to
The
be what
numbers
people.
are the numbers.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Socially conscious. So, at the end of the day, we're all in business to be profitable, and you have shareholders who you report back to, and the market rules to a degree, but then at the end of the day too, you have a lot of social engineering that goes on that is just a fact of life.
I've been very amused to watch the mainstream entertainment press and industry have to take notice of the phenomenon that is The Chosen. And
Same with
I think
sound. Same, yes,
forced to
Sound of
take,
Freedom. Yeah,
or yeah, and that, well, that came afterward.
yeah,
Yeah, but first it
right,
was The Chosen, sort
right.
of forced to take notice. And does that signal something? Because now we have normalized The Chosen as a television show, as a successful television show on multiple platforms. Does that make a difference?
It helps, but I don't think it's a game. I think if The Chosen were The Walking Dead, it would be perceived very differently. I still think that while the enormous success that The Chosen had, I think is still on, because on every platform and every on Amazon, for example, every platform that has a Chosen, it's their highest rated, highest watched show. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what show could transcend and go against gravity in that manner? I can't think of any show ever created in the history of TV that you could put on so many platforms and it would achieve the ratings that The Chosen had across all of those different.
Independently produced by a non-WGA writer, starring
No,
nobody anybody's heard of.
that's right. That's right. Pretty amazing.
Produced in like Texas and Utah.
Yeah, right,
It makes
right.
no sense if you know the history of television.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But that's the desire for this type of content. It also speaks to how, well done it is, but also faith-based content. It's people are yearning for those types of high quality stories.
Well, back in your days at Hallmark, it was known for what I call the sparkly Christmas movie, where the Christian content was low and the sparkle content was high. Hot chocolate and fuzzy sweaters and all that. Um, for whatever reason, business reason, you did that or creative reason. Now Hallmark Drama has been rebranded to Hallmark Family, and they specifically mention it's going to be about faith. So again, I'm wondering what's going on. So in terms of your channels, Great American Family and Great American Pure Flix and your other channels, to what degree will more overt expressions of faith creep their way into your holiday films or any other films?
Well, so I think, the Hallmark case is a little bit different. It was more of Hallmark never wanted to be overtly in the faith space. And so that wasn't a decision that necessarily we agreed with on the creative side. And so, on our side now, we are becoming much more overtly faith with, and we have been, with Candace Cameron Bure really leading the way there. But she left Hallmark for obvious reasons. And so, as we look at the space, we are going to be just absolutely going with the tide of supporting faith, family, and country, and doing it in a way that is focused on the positive sides of all of those elements and aspects of life, where so much of the entertainment community will portray them in a negative light. We're going to be relentlessly positive and are relentlessly positive around the content we produce, supporting faith and family and country.
I've always said to mainstream producers, like, how do you get this audience? I'm like, well, you could give them one character whose life they recognize as similar to their own, and you could stop insulting them directly.
Well said.
That's a big help.
Yeah.
Speaking as a Catholic, a lot of the expressions of faith we see in we see in faith-based entertainment. Now, mainstream entertainment has always been a better ground for Catholic expression for whatever reason, whether it's, exorcisms or crime-solving priests and nuns or what have you. But faith-based entertainment has had a heavily evangelical flavor. And I'm sure that's because they know what audience they can best promote to and the audience they're familiar with. So speaking as a Catholic, where can we see something that's a little more overtly Catholic, perhaps creep into one of your viewing? Because we really haven't seen that much in the faith-based side.
It's interesting that you say that. One of our fans, and he's a personal advisor to me, really, is Father Randy, who does our book club, and he's made the same note, and it's a good note. And
I good to know I'm not alone.
No, not at all. In fact, our programming group is predominantly Catholic, and so I think that we will look to tell broader Christian stories that
because you're not going to do an exorcism movie.
Not anytime
no.
soon. No. But certainly it's a point well taken.
So what's your marching orders for the rest of this year and looking ahead to next year? What's like one thing you absolutely want to accomplish in the next programming cycle?
It is, by creating quality content, grow the brand and grow the awareness of the brand, and just be relentlessly focused on that creative excellence that is so important to the experience. And that means that we'll do, really a broad slate of content that covers, there will be the sparkly, I think what you refer to
who doesn't love a sparkly Christmas movie,
Yes, but at the same time, family friendly. So it will hit one of those three, whether it's a military themed movie that's supportive of military and family and country, or a family friendly movie that your senses won't be assaulted if you watch, or faith-based movie. We really want to grow the brand to represent the highest quality content in that regard. And having Candace on board as chief creative officer, and having the roster of talent that we have, that's also
ever-growing roster.
Ever-growing, and adding Mario Lopez, who's a very, just a good, we really value all of our talent, not only for who they are on screen, but who they are behind, in everyday life. And they're even nicer and smarter than they are on screen, believe it or not. They're just such good people.
Awesome.
So, continuing to focus and hone in on that, and build out and expand what we're doing.
Great.
And PureFlix certainly allows us to do that in a big way.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome, Kate.
Go back to work.
Thank you. Okay. Take care.